some of you have been commenting and messaging that you want to see a little bit more. You want to see the rigging that I use. So you've been following along on the channel, thank you very much. And you've been watching my fishing adventures and watching the fish being brought into the canoe. And today I'm in the boat, and that gives me a different opportunity. When I'm in the boat, I can bring multiple fishing rods, and I'm gonna answer some questions where you guys want to know what I'm using for rigging. I'm not a big believer of super expensive gear. I like budget friendly stuff, and but my gear is still decent quality. So what am I using? Right now I got a jig on the guy here. So I have 3 rods. I have one rod that I'm using with monofilament, and I have this one rigged up with a jig head so I can cast whenever I want to cast. And then I have another rod I have a little bit of heavier rig here, and I use this guy here. I've been using this guy here today for spoons, trolling with spoons and crankbaits, that kind of stuff. And then I have a third rod, again for trolling, and this guy here I use with a spinner. These are my homemade, my own rig. These are go-getters, and I've been using live bait today, and I've also been using like twister tail kind of stuff. So what does that all mean? Most of my rigs, like I'm gonna say 95% of my arsenal of fishing rods is medium action. I find the medium action is perfect for multi-species fishing. A lot of times you go out and you don't know what's gonna hit your line, or you may not care what's gonna hit your line. You're just out, or I'm just out, and I'm fishing for the fun of fishing, and I just like to be out here. I have my preferred fish, of course, but I don't care. Sometimes I really don't care what bites the line. I just want to have some fishing action, have some fun. And for me in Ontario, Northern Ontario, I can catch anything from perch to pike, and medium action suits me just well across the board. The length of the rod will vary. I use anything from between 5.5 to 7 feet. Probably my most used length would be 6 feet, 6.5 foot. Like right now, today I have a 6-footer, and I have 2 6.5 footers. When I'm in the canoe, I prefer a little bit shorter rod. Maybe that should be kept for another video, but it makes it easier to wrangle a fish at the canoe. When the fish is at the boat, if you have a longer rod, your fish is further out, and you're trying to get the fish close to you. And when I'm in the canoe, a lot of times I prefer to grab my fish, especially if it's pike. I prefer to grab them than to net them. So a shorter rod, it makes it a little bit easier to maneuver the fish to me. In a boat, not so much. You got a long dip net with a long handle, so you can reach your fish with a longer rod. The other advantage of a longer rod is if you're casting, right? You can get a lot further out with a cast, depending on other rigging, other parts of your rigging. Let's start with the types of rod that I use. Right here today, I have 2 Bass Pro Shop brand rods, and I have a Fluger. This particular rod here, Bass Pro Shop, and you know what, guys, I got some expensive Abu Garcias on the rack at home, And most of the times when I grab a rod to head out, I'm grabbing a Bass Pro Shop rod. I love them. They're tough as nails and they don't bust the bank, especially if you keep your eye out for the sales. A lot of times, you know, like this particular rig here, I forget exactly what I paid for this, but I'm going to say I paid around $75 on a clearance rack. This was probably like a $120 rod, something like $140. I'm not 100% sure, but this is a Bass Pro Shop brand, and the name of this one is Fish Eagle. Beautiful rod, cork handle, 6.5 foot. Let's see here. Yeah, 6.5 foot. And this one here is a 2-piece. Tough as nails. This is my latest rod in my arsenal, and I'll throw a clip on right now. I'll show you how good this rod is. Because this rod, I just put it through its paces, and it should have broke on me on this little mishap. And it did not. These Bass Pro Shop rods are tough. You know what? I'd love Bass Pro Shop to sponsor me someday and give me a bunch of their rods, because I love them. I love them. I've been buying them for a long time. I'm going to show you my other one. This is my other Bass Pro Shop. This one here is called Tourney Special. And this is a 6-footer. Medium action, and it's got a fast tip. Again, budget friendly, nothing fancy. You can see the sponge handle. The one on this is all chewed up. I've been using this one here extensively for about, I'm gonna say, 4 years now. Again, just tough as nails. Love them. Absolutely love them, and very lightweight. This one here in particular, I have no idea how much it weighs, but it's very light, and they're very well balanced depending on the reel that you put on them. And then I got one a little bit fancier, but still a budget friendly rod. This is a Fluger Tryon. This is an older rod. This is probably, I'm gonna say, 10 years old, and it keeps going and going and going. This is actually my wife's rod. I bought this, I paid a little bit more money. It was a gift I made to her, and this is an Aramid braid 2-piece, 6.5, I believe. Yeah, 6.5 footer, medium action. And a lot of times I'll take this rod, I'll steal her rod. I won't tell her, but I'll take her rod, especially if I'm out chasing, and I know I'm going to be chasing some pike. This one's got a little bit more backbone, a little bit more rigid. It fights larger fish a little bit better, but still a Fluger, excellent quality. Still at a budget friendly price, you know. Guys, I refuse to buy these expensive $400 St. Croix and stuff like that. I won't. I just won't. Not gonna do it. It's not my jam to spend that insane amount of money. When you break a rod tip, it doesn't matter how much you paid for it. It's still a broken rod tip. Speaking of broken rod tips, I'll give you a tip right now. So I got a jig here. I'm going to cast, and I'm going to cast my lure, right? When you cast, you're over your shoulder. Always wait 1 second. When you swing your rod over your shoulder to cast, you swing your rod, just pause for that 1 second, and then toss your rod. Then toss your lure. And the reason why you don't want your rod to have that fluid motion of backwards and then back again, because the weight of that lure, depending what lure you have, that's what's going to break a rod tip. Okay. I have not broken tons of rod tips in my life, but I've broken rod tips plenty. And I can tell you right now that every single rod tip I've ever broken was my fault. Every one. I have never broken a rod tip where it was an actual failure of the fishing rod. And if you want to avoid a broken rod tip, don't do that. Casting and all in one motion where you swing back and you cast forward. That swinging back and back again with the weighted lure, you'll break a rod tip. So just remember that. Okay, so back to the rig. What else? I covered the rods. How about the reels? The reels that I'm using, I use spin cast. That's the only thing I use. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. You know, I've never used anything else. It's just what I do. I like them because they accommodate anything. And they're inexpensive. Again, same thing with the reels. I do not buy super expensive reels. I have some good quality Daiwas at home and that I've had for years, and I've retired them, and then I'll put them back in the service and whatever kind of thing, and they'll sit there for years, and I'll pick it up and I'll oil it and try it out, and they work good. But you know what, you don't need to spend tons of money on reels. I'm gonna start actually, I'm gonna show you what I got here, because I don't really know what I got actually. What is this here? That's a Shimano. So I got a little Shimano here. This is a 2500. So all of my reels, unless I'm like targeting a very specific species of fish, again for multi-species, I buy everything between 2,000 and 4,000 in the size of reel. That's it. Anything else is because I'm targeting something special. Maybe I'm going deep for some Lakers, which I haven't done in a long time, or maybe I'm going for some little fine brookies. Then the rigging is more specific. But multi-species, going out fishing, catching whatever you're going to catch, between 2,000 and 4,000. So this is a 2500, a little Shimano. It's not expensive, but you know what? It works well. Let's grab my other one. What else do I have? On this one here, I have, it's a Fluger. Again, Fluger. Good quality, still won't bust the bank. Good quality reels. This one here, I haven't serviced this in several years. Keeps going, keeps ticking. It doesn't fail. Works great. This is a small one. This is a little 2000, and this whole rig here is nice and lightweight. Perfect for those smaller walleye. This is excellent rig. Fluger. Just remember, Fluger. It's a good quality. Now here's another one. Again, this is my latest addition. Look at this reel. Boy, does that ever look fancy, right? All that black and that brassy color. Nice, eh? Well, guess what? This is a 2000 in size. Hang on here. Oh, hang on. I got a fish. Oh, give me a little bit of a, oh yeah, a little bit of a run for my money. Oh yeah. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's a little snot rocket, for crying out loud. Okay, hang on. Let me get rid of this fish. Let's get back to this reel. Nice reel, right? Guess what? This is a Chinese piece of junk. I couldn't even pronounce the name of this thing. Not kidding. It's junk. I'm saying it's junk because it's very inexpensive. But you know what? You just saw what happened. It does the job. It catches fish. What can I say? The line that's on here is probably worth more money than the reel. Does it work well? Yeah, it works well. Will it last forever? No, absolutely not. This will never last as long as a nice Daiwa or something like that, but you know what? You pay almost nothing for these things, and they perform. Look, if you're lucky enough to be able to check out the specs, check the specs, but be careful. They'll say, the manufacturer will say, oh yeah, 5 ball bearings, for example, but they don't tell you their ball bearings are made out of plastic, right? So it's the way of the industry. We've all been there. But point being, you know what, if this thing lasts me say 2 years and it starts feeling crunchy or whatever, you know, take it off, throw it in the garbage, done, right? But point being, you really don't have to have expensive rig to get out and enjoy yourself. You really don't. All right, I got a, what else are we going to talk about here? Let's talk about the line, but first I got to get my my jig head is a little bit tangled in the net because of that pike. Let me fix that and I'll throw a cast out, and then I'm going to get you back on. We're going to talk about the line next. Okay, so I use 2 different types of line. I use both monofilament and also use, I'm a big fan of braided line. Big fan. I use braided line a lot. More than anything else, I use braided line. And probably because I do a lot of trolling, and I really like the braided line because it doesn't tangle up when from trolling. Monofilament, which is what I got on this one here, even if you buy monofilament that is designed specifically for trolling, I find that it's still eventually, it still gets tangled up. It gets a twist in it, and then that's when you get the bird's nest effect, right? You go to cast your line that has a twist in it, you reeled it into your reel with a twist, and it's got a memory, right? It wants to go back to the way it used to be, and you go to cast it, then your rod, your whole spool goes poof, and then you got that bird nest effect. So that's the downside to monofilament. I personally have never ever had a bird nest situation with braided line, but there's pros and cons to everything. So the con to braided line is when you're trolling, you know, you have to let out a lot more line. You typically have to use heavier weight to get your lure down in the bottom. If you want to get all the way down to the bottom of your water, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging for braided line. And the reason why that is because it's multiple strands and it's weave. That's why it's called braided. So what happens is you got air is trapped inside that braided line. So now your line is actually buoyant. That's why it's more difficult to get your lure down deep. A monofilament line will cut right through the water and it'll get down in there like that. So that's the con to braided line. You have to use a lot more of it. Like, you gotta let out more line when you're trolling it, especially if you're going deep. Boy, you gotta really let out a lot of line, and that's where that 4,000 reel comes in, because if you go to a 4,000 reel, you're gonna have a bigger spool. You can accommodate more volume of line, and then that way there, when you're fishing deeper waters, you know you're gonna be in deeper waters, you can accommodate that by upsizing the size of your reel. Now, I still do like mono. I'm using mono right now, but I got it rigged up specifically on this rod right now for casting. That's when I really like it, because it really sails through. And the thing is with mono, depending on the line, they're not all the same, obviously, but mono has some stretch to it, right? Has some give, and that's nice, because you can judge when you get a snag or something like that. You can judge when that line's going to snap or not snap, so you can work with it. Now, as far as brands are concerned, you know, that's a lot of personal preference. You really just got to get out there, purchase something, and try it and see if you like it. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of personal preference on brand. For example, if I think back years ago when I first started playing around with braided line, I remember buying some spider wire, right? And that stuff's still around. And spider wire was a big name, and I bought some spider wire. I was gonna try that out, this tough line, and you know what? It was extremely tough, and it was actually too tough, because sometimes you want your line to break. You want it to break. You're maybe usually you're in a snag situation. Your lure is snagged up in a stump down there. The waves are crashing in. You got no time to mess around. You're beating in the waves, and you need to get out of there. And you need to break your line so you can regroup and recollect your thoughts and get back into the swing of things. I got a snag right now. So anyways, the spider wire, it was so strong, I had to take my paddle and I had to wrap the line around the paddle and with two hands pull up like that to snap, to get the line to snap. And to me, that's not cool. That's a dangerous situation. Like I say, if you're, it could be a couple of people in the boat and thing, and there's a commotion going on, waves are crashing in, perhaps it's coming over the bow or something like that, and the last thing you want is to be messed up where you're anchored by your fishing line, right? Okay, so I'm just running by the seat of my pants here. I hope that answered a few of your questions, those of you who were asking and wondering. I hope that helps out a little bit. Feel free to throw questions in the comments section. I answer all comments. So yeah, this is where it is. And I think I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go target another area of the lake.